Hi everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel. So I've just made it out today to Dungeness with some of the guys from the camera club to do a whole day's photo shoot here. Absolute unique location coming to Dungeness, really abstract images that can be had here, but also some of the landscape images as well. So hopefully should work out to be a really good day's shoot. Cloud cover is a little bit more than was originally forecast when we planned the trip, but it's just adapting to those conditions. There's a little bit more detail now coming over in the clouds, so hopefully with maybe some bracketed exposures and black and white as well would work out to be some really good interesting images. But yeah, again, being out with a camera, real plus. So let's come along for the journey. Got the first composition set up there, getting quite low down to this walk board, right out to the seashore here, working out to be really quite interesting image. Getting that little bit lower minimises any sort of sea in there, so the horizon line is a sort of crest just before it drops down to the beach itself. But it's taking the image both in landscape and portrait orientations, and it's f16 ISO 100 and about 1/80th of a second. And working out to be quite an interesting image. I'm blowing out the highlights a little bit, but hopefully in post-processing can bring them back down and balance the image. So first image in the bag, 2 compositions, working out really well. So I've just been working the next composition here of the lighthouse. Been a little bit tricky. Because it is so desolate around here, there's not much else to add into the foreground interest. So I'm having to frame up the image with some of these grasses here. And I've decided to go and set the lens at f3.5 to make that as sharp as possible, but obviously diffuse the background. I think you're still going to be able to get some of the detail of the or what exactly the lighthouse is as well in the background, but there's some big sort of metal palisade fencing around the actual base of the lighthouse, so it's not really creating much interest. If you go any closer, you can't obviously get right up to it anyway, so I'm not really liking that. That's why I'm trying to set it up as low as possible, focus on the foreground as well, and then obviously take that image. So I've done an image in landscape orientation and portrait orientation as well. Settings are f3.5, ISO 100 and about 2000 for the second exposure for both portrait and landscape. But yeah, working out to be quite an interesting composition. One you have to work with, but I find that's quite interesting. If you've got to work for it, it's a bit more of a challenge. Also, potentially, it's going to be something a little bit more unique as well, because sometimes the common, typical images that you can literally walk up to, plonk the tripod down, calculate your exposure given the conditions and take the image straight away, everyone's got that. But if you have to think a little bit more, work at it a little bit harder, hopefully you may well come away with that unique image. However, I'll probably check social media and there's about 1,001 of these in already. That's the way it is. So for this next composition, I've come down the road a little bit and come across one of these boats that's obviously been brought up onto the shingle beach here. But I'm loving the lines and the detail through this actual image. So I've taken two exposures, one at f3.5 ISO 100 and 1600th of a second exposure, and then second composition itself, but changed the f number to f11 ISO 100, and that's about 160th of a second. Game's obviously just got two exposures, working out which one's going to be the best for me to actually use when I get back to post-processing. But as an actual composition, I love as the boat is lying in the beach itself here, and obviously with the sort of shingle creating a bit like sort of waves, I feel, in the actual image, and sort of showing the boat in its natural environment as such, but obviously high and dry as well. So I've just got the next composition set up here of one of these, one of the bulldozers, or one of the work machines that they use here, and there's definitely seen better days. One of the Caterpillar tractors fallen off of it, but aren't we photographers drawn to sort of decay, rot and rust? And this image has it in abundance. I absolutely love this one. Took a similar image when I was out with my camera club over in Suffolk last year, about this time last year, but taking this image I think is going to trump that one. It's lovely detail in here, but to actually make sure that I want to capture it and get all that information, I've set the camera on f11 ISO 100 and taken a base shutter speed, but then also bracketed 2 stops either side. Because we are in quite sort of bright overcast skies, I want to obviously pull back as much detail in the shadow, and obviously pull so much detail back in the highlights as well, and having all 3 exposures will hopefully work out and really make this sort of image pop a little bit more. I think the only thing that would probably make this image go up that next level, if it was absolutely tipping down with rain, we had a bit more moody skies, and then obviously all of the rust, and it just kind of pops that little bit more. But then again, I don't really fancy doing that because I could absolutely soak in wet. So I'll definitely make do with this composition and these weather conditions as well. But as an image, yeah, really enjoying this one. So just working on another composition here, using one of these derelict fishing boats. Really kind of just trying to adjust the composition so I can minimise the distractions in the background, and also obviously bring out some of the detail as well in the actual image itself, or in the main focal point. So what I've decided to do is take an image in f5.6 ISO 100, and obviously adjusting the shutter speed, which obviously I'll post up with the image, but also bracketing as well. So obviously again, I've got all those 3 exposures in the bag, just so I can obviously play with it in post-processing to make sure that it obviously comes out and pops that little bit more. And yeah, loving the actual detail, the sort of the woods and the obviously the flaky paint as well on the hull of the boat, making that to be quite an interesting image. Some obviously the detail as well in the foreground, obviously with some of the bushes and grasses, sorry, as well. Hopefully work out to be quite an interesting image. There's so much stuff. There's a few other words I could describe it around here to making up some really sort of unique and interesting compositions, but yeah, working out to be really quite an enjoyable shoot. Some of the other guys as well have really enjoyed some of the compositions they've captured so far, and yeah, hopefully here for another couple of hours as well, which will work out to be really quite a good shoot in the end. So I've just come across this boat as I'm walking along the shoreline here. Absolutely fantastic. Where it's decayed, where it's angled on its side, it's got these lovely fishing nets coming over the side as well, making for a fantastic image. The only difficulty that I'm having is it's facing directly back into where the sun is behind the clouds, so the background is really blown out. So I'm having to bracket. But what the settings I've got up on the camera is f9, ISO 100, and about 125th as my of a second base image, but then obviously exposing 2 stops either side. For this image, hopefully working out really quite nice. I love the shape and the curve of the lines within the actual boat as well, and adding with the net sort of overflowing, really sort of in one image encapsulates everything that's sort of going on within this area. The fishing, the decay, the sky that we're having today as well, but hopefully again sort of working out really quite well with all of those 3 exposures. I may consider as well doing it in a black and white because obviously there's no detail in the background, but yeah, until I get back to post-processing to work that one out. But actually as an image, yeah, really enjoying this one as well. So I've just made it down the beach a little bit further to probably one of the most classic shots that you can actually capture from Dungeness. So I've got these tram lines leading up to the derelict boat and framing it up really nicely. I've got the bottom or the left hand rail running on the bottom left hand corner through the image up to the boat, and making sure that I've got a low point of view, so I'm obviously eliminating that horizon line and obviously just getting the boat sort of breaking that horizon line, so hopefully working out really quite well. So I've got the camera set up in f11 ISO 100. Just double check the shutter speed. So that's 100th of a second as my base image, but taking bracketing 2 stops either side of that. So I've obviously got that again to work with in in post-processing. But hopefully capturing some of this lovely grass as well in the foreground, and as I say, with the leading rails through the image, working out to be a really interesting shot. Composed it in portrait because I felt that was working a little bit better, emphasising the length and the depth of the image as well, rather than a landscape orientation. So it always pays to sort of practice with or composing both landscape and portrait orientations, just so you can work out to see which is actually going to work the best. But hopefully for this image, portrait's going to be the winner.